Well, good morning. It's Thursday. And since we've seen each other last, we've had a birthday, a virtual birthday. In fact, we've had 4 birthdays during our quarantine. And it's wonderful to sit and look at a cake being eaten in another house with grandchildren blowing out your candles and accepting the applause. It's really very nice. It's very nice. Anyway, Mary's had a birthday. I've had a birthday. Our niece has had a birthday. And our granddaughter, Mary Abigail, Elise Porter, will be having a birthday on Saturday. And so we're virtually very happy. Happiness is an acquired art. Not many people know that. I didn't know it for a long time. I thought it was what happened to me. Depended on circumstances. But actually, happiness is something that you learn to acquire. And we go back to that quarter second. I think that's one of the most important insights I got from Dan Baker and Cameron Smith, that there was that moment in time, 1/4 second. And in that quarter second was the source of so much of our responses to things. Yeah, it comes right back to, is the glass half empty or is it half full? Well, same amount of liquid, same size glass, but we calculate. And if it's half empty, well, then we have an attitude toward impoverishment, that something is taken from me. If it's half full, well, then it's an attitude of plenty. If happiness is acquired, how? How is it acquired? It's acquired by putting appreciation to work. Appreciation, we said last time, was the highest form of love. It asks for nothing and gives everything. The Beatles are a perfect example of this. The Beatles came to the United States in February 1964. They made their debut on American television at the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday night to 73 million viewers. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison. It was called the British invasion of the American music scene. What people may not understand is that that was a well-rehearsed event. Their first manager just died, by the way, Alan Williams. Alan Williams preceded Brian Epstein, who managed their meteoric career. But Alan Williams did something very, very interesting. He got those young men to leave Liverpool on Monday morning and fly to Hamburg, Germany, which was the music capital of Europe. And for 7 years, the Beatles sang 3 nights in Liverpool and 4 nights in Hamburg. 7 years and 2,000 hours of performances before live audiences. They would start at 6 o'clock at night and end at 2:30 in the morning. They wrote 364 songs, 25 albums. They learned stamina. They learned discipline. They increased their repertoire of various forms of music. They learned to compose, and they sounded, when they hit Ed Sullivan, they sounded like no other group in the world because they played 8 hours a day. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, makes an example of this, and he calls it the 10,000 hour rule. Happiness is a learned skill, and happiness is a practiced art. Happiness is an acquired habit. That's counterintuitive to us. But we can learn to be happy, or we can learn to be unhappy. I've learned a lot of things in my life, but one of the most important things I've ever learned is that we make personal changes not by thinking. You know, I was a philosophy major in college in liberal arts, and I learned from Rene Descartes, the philosopher, that I think, therefore I am. It's a classical goal of all philosophy, Western philosophy. We are thinkers. And thinking is important. Thinking is how we set a strategy. Thinking is how we do what we think we ought to do. That's how we make a plan. But we don't ever make personal change by thinking. We make personal change by acting. This is why your New Year's resolutions don't get far past January 3rd or 4th. At least I don't. Because I don't have a set plan of action. We acquire happiness. We have to know where to seek it. We have to know where it's not. There are no substitutes for it. Although the culture offers us many, many substitutes. Just as good as. We have products that way. Instead of buying a furniture polish of $60 a bottle, you can use lemon oil, just as good as. But nothing is just as good as happiness. It has been said, and this is counterintuitive too, and it takes a little bit of thinking. We do not describe the world we see. We see the world we describe. We don't describe the world we see. We see the world we describe. Why? If it's half full, it's half full. If it's half empty, it's half empty. And this is why we have to practice doing something for the quarter second. We have to practice putting, why is it that your initial response to something can be anger? Why is it that your initial response to something can be pleasant? What makes the difference? There's a great story, and I studied a bit at St. Bonaventure University in Olean, New York, near Buffalo. There's a lot of universities up there, Niagara University, Canisius University, St. Bonaventure University. St. Bonaventure once had a very, 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 very good basketball team. Not so much anymore. It's a smaller school. But it once was in the high cotton of the NCAA Final Four that lost to Ohio State way back when. It had a library, and in it was a collection of medieval manuscripts. I mean, priceless manuscripts. William Ockham, Bonaventure himself, medieval scholars who preserved these scrolls and the arcana, the section of the library was under lock and key. And to make a long story short, the library burned. And the manuscripts were lost. 3/4 of them. Treasures beyond calculation. And Thomas Plasman was the director of the library. He had come from Germany and started the university. Thomas Plasman. And as he saw the library burning, he said, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. It comes from Job. Why? Why that response? So all we have to do is learn to practice appreciation. Put appreciation to work. Appreciation is a power. It's a personal power. It is your power to make a difference. It is your power to make a change. Think solution. Massaging the problems only works for a while. After a while, think solution. There's a solution somewhere. It may not be the solution you want, but it is a solution. There's always a back door somewhere. There's always a way to escape. There's always a way out. But a lot of times, life is like a bad tooth. I don't know. Dental care is so proficient today, but you can have a bad tooth. And I can tell you something, when you have a bad tooth, you massage that tooth. You go, still there. Ooh. You keep biting it to make sure it's there. You keep biting it. I think I'm right about that. Think solution. Because frustration is the abandonment of personal power. This is why enemies, I said this last week, and I really thought it was pretty good. Love your enemies, Jesus said. And we don't know what he meant. And we heard sermons about it, which are bogus, because people are not able to have an emotional response of warmth to someone who is going to hurt them or who has hurt them. But that's not what he asks us. He asks us to appreciate them because they have something to teach us. And once we teach and learn what it is they have to teach us, then we can move forward. We'll talk a little more if we're still doing this in a bit. We'll talk a little more about the use of language and personal power, positive thinking. All of that stuff is true. So here's how you put appreciation to work. Here's how you go to Hamburg and play 4 extra nights for 2,000 hours. This is how you perform before a live audience 1,200 times before you walk out on Ed Sullivan and say, boy, they're good. They're just really good. No, they're good because they worked at it, because they had a teacher who taught them what to do, who got those young men organized, structured, and proficient. Life just doesn't happen. It doesn't fall from the sky. You have to work on it. Put appreciation to work. Here's the key to your life. 3 times a day. Morning, noon, afternoon. 3 times a day. 5 minutes a time. 5 minutes a time. 3 times a day. 15 minutes total. I haven't got that kind of time. I can't spend 15 minutes doing something like that. Yes, you can. It doesn't take any time at all. We fritter away. Even busy people might fritter away 2 hours a day. It gives you a chance to sit and think. And what is it? The 5 things I appreciate about a person or a thing or an experience. Start with something very positive. Always start with positive. Think of your children. Think of your spouse. Think of your home. Think of your town. Think of something which is something you appreciate. George Allen, the comedian, Gracie and George Allen. Gracie predeceased him. George lived to be 100 and was making movies at 100 years old with that chomping on that cigar. And George Allen once said, look, the key to life is find something you love and do it every day. Find something you love and do it every day. The 5 things I appreciate. Morning, noon, night. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. The 5 things I appreciate. Do that for a week. What's going to happen is, by the time a month goes by, it will become a habit. And by the time 40 days goes by, and 50 days, and 60 days, you'll be rolling in high cotton. We don't describe the world we see. We see the world we describe.